السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, we'll take a benefit inshallah from Sahih Bukhari. Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he says, باب لا يفرق بين اثنين يوم الجمعة. حدثنا عبدان قال أخبرنا عبد الله قال أخبرنا ابن أبي ذئب عن سعيد المقبري عن أبيه عن ابن أبي وديعة عن ابن وديعة عن سلمان الفارسي رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: من اغتسل يوم الجمعة وتطهر بما استطاع من طهر ثم ادهن أو مس من طيب ثم راح فلم يفرق بين اثنين فصلى ما كتب له ثم إذا خرج الإمام أنصت غفر له ما بينه وبين الجمعة الأخرى. Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he mentions in the book of Jumu'ah, Kitab al-Jumu'ah, in the 19th chapter, he says, لا يفرق بين اثنين يوم الجمعة. You should not split two people up. You should not come between two individuals on the day of Jumu'ah. You should not come between or wedge yourself between or apply yourself between two people, or split two people that are relatively close or one place and split them. You shouldn't do this on Yawm al-Jumu'ah. Then is hadith number 910. Imam al-Bukhari, he narrates from Abdan, from Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, from Ibn Abi Dhi'bin, from Sa'id al-Maqburi, who narrated from his father, who narrated from Ibn Wadi'ah, who narrated from Salman al-Farisi. And Salman radiallahu anhu, he narrated that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the following words: من اغتسل يوم الجمعة وتطهر بما استطاع من طهر. He says, he who washes on Friday, he who makes a bath or takes a bath, makes a ghusl, and he cleans himself and he washes himself to the best of his ability, ثم دهن أو مس من طيب, and he perfumes himself, and he, what could be an equivalent of duhn is like lotion or oil. He makes himself clean, he moisturizes himself, and he makes himself smell good. ثم راح فلم يفرق بين اثنين, and then he goes to Jumu'ah without splitting two people up, without coming between two people that are sitting down and moving them out of the way. فصلى ما كتب له, and he prays what Allah Azza wa Jal has allowed him to pray. He offers prayers based off of what Allah Azza wa Jal has ordained for him. Everyone understand this? Whether that's obligatory, recommended, he prays what Allah Azza wa Jal ordains for him. Then, when the Imam comes out, ansata, he keeps silent and he listens. He will be forgiven that which was between it and that which will come on the next Jumu'ah. He'll be forgiven for that whole entire period of time. He'll be forgiven for that entire period of time. Al-Hafidh bin Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he says in Fath al-Bari, he says, باب لا يفرق أي داخل بين اثنين كذا ترجمة ولم يثبت الحكم. Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he says, those who split two people up. Those who split two people up. And he says that he never ever mentioned the ruling. He never said it was permissible, haram, disliked. Imam al-Bukhari, he just gives you the issue. This is what it is. The ruling or the issue of someone who splits people up, who comes and he drives himself between two people. What is the ruling? And the commentary here in Fath al-Bari, he never mentions what it is or what it isn't. He never mentions what it is or what it isn't. He says, وَقَدْ نَقَلَ الْكَرَاهَةَ عَنِ الْجُمْهُورِ ابن المنذري واختار التحريم وبه جزم النووي في زوائد الروضة والأكثر على أنها كراهة تنزيه. Now, that's Imam al-Bukhari's style, that's his method. Ibn Hajar, he says, Ibn al-Mundhir rahimahullah, Ibn al-Mundhir, the author of Al-Awsat, he says here that most of the ulama hold the view that it is disliked to do this. It's disliked. It's makruh to come and to split between two people. But there are others such as Ibn al-Mundhir himself and an-Nawawi himself, they say that it's haram, you can't do that. On the day of Jummah, you're not allowed to move two people out of the way to squeeze yourself in. Two people are sitting there and you say, let me sit there. It says haram, you can't do that. But most of the ulama of Islam, they hold the view that it's only disliked. That it's only what? It's disliked. It should be avoided, but it isn't something which is a means of sin. ونقله الشيخ أبو حامد عن النص والمشهور عند الشافعية الكراهة كما جزم به الرافعي والأحاديث الواردة في الزجر عن التخطي مخرجة في المسند والسنن وفي غالبها ضعف. He says in the hadiths that are mentioned regarding kicking people in the neck, kicking people in the shoulder, moving people out of the way, kneeing them in the back, Ismaili, coming through, pardon me, Naam. He says that these hadiths here, was what people do on Friday. He says these hadiths are mentioned in the Musnad Imam Ahmad. They're mentioned in the Sunan. He says, but most of them are weak. Most of them have weakness in them, have weakness in those hadiths. وأقوى ما ورد فيه ما أخرجه أبو داود والنسائي من طريق أبي الزاهرية قال كنا مع عبد الله بن بسر صاحب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فذكر رجلا جاء يتخطى والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يخطب فقال اجلس فقد أذيته. ولأبي داود من طريق عمرو بن شعيب عن أبيه عن جده رفعه ومن تخطى رقاب الناس كانت له ظهرا. He says in the strongest of these hadiths, the strongest of them is the hadith which is narrated by Abu Zahiriyah. It says one day we were sitting with one of the companions who was Abdullah ibn Busr, one of the Sahaba. And Abdullah ibn Busr, he mentioned that in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was a man who came, yatakhatta, and he was moving people out the way, kneeing them, hitting them, bumping them, forcing himself to get a closer position to the Imam. And the Prophet ﷺ was giving the khutbah, and he says, Ijlis, he says, sit down. Faqad adayta, he says, you've annoyed enough people. Sit down because you have annoyed what? You've annoyed enough people. Listen to this hadith now. This hadith is talking about moving people out of the way on Jummah, but is applicable for what? Anytime. During the week, after the khutbah, in which someone is a means of what? Annoyance. You can annoy somebody with your voice. You can annoy somebody with your actions. You can annoy someone with your smell. You can annoy someone with lack of respect. You can annoy someone with causing drama in the masjid, with announcements, whatever the annoyance may be. Whatever the what? The annoyance may be. So the Prophet, he said, Ijlis, he said, sit down because you have annoyed. Faqad adayta. You've done enough. You've reached a level of annoyance which is too much. He says there's another hadith here in Sunan Abi Dawood that's narrated from Amr ibn Shu'aib, from his father, from his grandfather, not necessarily his grandfather. Is it his father's father or his father's grandfather? Al-Muhim is Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. He said that the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam said, and whoever hits the people's necks and bumps the people's necks, his Jumu'ah is a dhuhr. His Jumu'ah is what? His dhuhr. Kanat lahu dhuhran. He says that it's what? It's no longer Jumu'ah. Alright? Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, وقيد مالك والأوزاعي الكراهة بما إذا كان الخطيب على المنبر. قال ابن المنير التفريقة بين اثنين يتناول القعود بينهما وإخراج أحدهما والقعود مكانه وقد يطلق على مجرد التخطي. He says here, and some scholars they say that it's only disliked during a certain period of time, and that is when the Imam is giving the khutbah. That is when the Imam is what? Giving the khutbah. Then you can't move up and swim your way close. But if the Imam isn't giving the khutbah, Malik rahimahullah and Auza'i rahimahullah, they say it's nothing wrong with it. And obviously there's a reason why they're saying this. When the Prophet ﷺ is speaking about Jumu'ah, in most cases he's talking about pushing the people away from the sermon and distracting them and annoying them from doing what they're supposed to do. But the other scholars, they didn't mention that. Anyone who hits the people, who bumps the people, who moves them out of the way, who annoys them, who wedges himself between two people, they say what? It's either haram or what? Or makruh. One of the two. Before, during, or after the khutbah. Moving forward, he says here, and included in this is to sit between two people and to make someone get up and take his seat. Many brothers, they do this, whether it's someone younger or older, or someone that may be in their way, what they may think, they say, they'll do this, right? Like, someone will make a movement while the khutbah is going on, or they may even say something, move over, or it's space, and so on and so forth. He said all of this is included, and it could also just mean the sheer act of bumping people and moving them out of the way, even if you don't wish to take a seat. طيب, he says وفي التخطي زيادة رفع رجليه على رؤوسهما أو أكتافهما وربما تعلق بثيابهما شيء بما في رجليه. He says here, raising your feet up, like I just mentioned and translated, kicking them, bumping them, and not just moving. It doesn't just mean moving, but I said what? Swimming. And when you swim, obviously swimming is a challenge on the body because of the pressure and the friction of the water. There's some type of density there. So you have to use your muscles to cut through the water. And that is what's meant here. It's not just like an opening, you just walk through. No, you're what? Swimming through people. Ishmani. You see what I'm saying to you? There's some type of, you can't just move as fast as you want because there are bodies there, even if there are cracks. He says, you lifting up your feet, you lifting up your legs. He says a person may kick someone, and they may put their feet on their clothes. They may have unclean feet, or something which is, something that you don't want on your what? On your clothes from someone's toes. Na'am. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, he says here, وَقَدْ اسْتَثْنَى أو وَقَدْ اسْتُثْنِيَ من الكراهة أو من كراهة التخطي ما إذا كان في الصفوف الأول فرجة فأراد داخل سدها فيفتقر له أو فيغتفر له لتقصيرهم. He says an exemption to this rule is if there are holes and gapes in the rows, and the people have not filled all of the rows up. He says, so one who comes in and he sees these holes, he sees these gaps, he's allowed to do so. He's allowed to what? He's allowed to do so. Now this is what Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala says. Obviously, one has to sit down and think about everything. Now, he says, لِتَقْصِيرِهِمْ, is that these people who are sitting down, they're not implementing the sunnah. Alright, they leave gaps. And this happens, unfortunately, right here in this masjid. Every week, when I'm on a minbar, I see 2 or 3 or 4 different gaps right here in the front. And you notice the ironic thing is that in the back of the masjid, in my humble opinion, which is a relatively medium to large size masjid, the back of the masjid is packed. And the first row, the second row, there's a brother sitting like this. There's a brother relaxed. And there's a big, large gap of green that you can see. In my humble opinion, you should not be able to see green on the first row, on the second row, on the third row. The brothers are supposed to be what? Packed. They're supposed to be rushing to get closer to the imam, to listen to the khutbah, and to get those rewards. So many brothers, they fall into that error. And we've advised them before, and inshallah we're going to try to advise them again. But there are many, many errors that brothers, they make. Also, another major mistake that people, they make, they come late. They come at 1 o'clock, 12:50, 12:59, 1:05, and they make their 2 rak'ah right here. And that blocks the path of the imam and the khatib. And then, that's wrong. You're not supposed to do that. If you want to pray your sunnahs and implement the sunnah of no one walking in front of you, come what? That which is the sunnah. Everyone understand this? And some of the ulama of Islam, they say, is that if you come in the road of the people, then the people can walk in front of you. And the hadith doesn't apply to you because you're preventing people from that which is necessary. Alright? So we have compound errors. People, they make these mistakes. They have lack of fiqh. They come late. They stand in the middle of the walkway in which they know there's no back door, there's no doors, this mihrab, there's no way for the imam to come in. They know the imam has to walk this way. And he has an amanah for being on time and starting the khutbah on time. Everyone understand this? And they pray right there in the middle of the walkway. There's no common sense or no fiqh. Alright? Or the brothers, as I said, they don't sit properly. They leave gaps. They sit back like it's something leisurely. And they leave a lot of space in the front. I'm talking about. In the middle of the masjid, I can't see nothing but bodies. The back of the masjid, all you see is brothers. The front of the masjid, even on the live stream, you see what? Chunks of green missing. and that's something which is wrong. So therefore, this is pertaining to our masjid here, and I'm going to tell the brothers again this week and remind them again, because they seem to have a case of forgetfulness. And also what he's saying here in his classical text is that if someone comes in and he moves the people out of the way and he swims through the people and he may knee someone or something like this, he says then that's their fault and not what? And not his, because they're falling short. They're falling short. He then says, rahimahullah ta'ala, أورد فيه حديث سلمان وقد تقدم الكلام عليه مستوفا في باب الدهن للجمعة. Here he says that Imam al-Bukhari, now he's done talking about the issue. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, he's done his brief discussion of the issue, and that is the issue of at-takhatti or takhatti al-riqab, moving people out of the way, bumping into people, saying Ishma'li on Jumu'ah to get a seat. Now he says the hadith that Imam al-Bukhari mentioned is narrated by Salman radiyallahu anhu, and he says we have explained this hadith in detail in the previous chapter, and is one of the reasons why Sahih Bukhari and why this sharh isn't as easy as other books are. And that's because one hadith he mentions in several different places. So you're looking for the sharh here, but it may be mentioned earlier, or it may be mentioned in a whole different book. He'll say وَيَأْتِي الْكَلَامُ عَلَيْهِ فِي كَذَا وَيَأْتِي الْكَلَامُ عَلَى بَقِيَّةِ مَبَاحِثِهِ فِي كِتَابِ كَذَا. He may only explain one part of the hadith and say we're explaining the other issues in another. And this is the fa'idah of Fath al-Bari, is that it causes you to be dynamic. It causes you to be dynamic. To jump here, to move here, to know where to find it, how to find it, and for your mind to be what? Dynamic. Instead of everything just being simply placed what? Right in front of you. That's a benefit. It makes things easy for you, but it doesn't allow you to what? Research. It doesn't for you to spring and jump around like that mentally. Everyone understand this? And that's very important for a student of knowledge. So therefore, with that being said, the hadith of Salman radiallahu anhu, briefly, it clearly shows us the virtue of making a ghusl on Jumu'ah. The virtue of making a ghusl on Jumu'ah. And this hadith here, somebody may say that it proves that it's not obligatory to make a ghusl on Jumu'ah. It's not obligatory. And that's because the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions the virtue of doing it. But that's incorrect. Just because a virtue is mentioned does not mean that it isn't obligatory. Just because there's a hadith or verse in the Quran that says ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, that's best for you, it does not mean that it's not obligatory. And the text that talk about the virtue of a thing have nothing to do with the text that talk about the obligation of a thing. So the hadith says that the congregational prayer is 25 times more virtuous than the prayer made individually. Or the congregational prayer is 27 times more virtuous than the prayer of someone that's done individually. Some scholars, they say this hadith proves that the congregational prayer is not obligatory. That the Jummah is not obligatory. And that's from two aspects. The first aspect is that the Prophet, he mentioned the virtue in light of another virtue. And how could he mention the virtue of someone who's sinning? How can he mention the virtue of what? Someone who's sinning. Why not making the what? The Jummah. Secondly, they say that it proves that the prayer that's made individually, not in congregation, is valid. And it's not invalid. Tayyib. This hadith proving that the prayer is valid? Perhaps. But it proving that the Jummah is not obligatory? No way. And that's because there are other hadiths that prove and state the ruling of the Jummah. And just because something is more virtuous doesn't mean that it's what? Not wajib. Everyone understand this? That's first and foremost. So the hadiths about washing on Jumu'ah are other hadiths. Tayyib. He then says, وَتَطَهَرَ بِمَا اسْتَطَاعَ مِنْ طُهْرٍ. He says, he who washes, and that also includes she who washes, and anyone who is going to come to Jumu'ah, even if they don't have to come. Even if they what? Such as a woman who does not have to come to Jumu'ah. It's not obligatory. Someone who isn't of age, someone who's a traveler, someone who's a servant. But if you are going to come, then you should wash. He says here, وَتَطَهَرَ, and then cleans him or herself, purifies himself. Is there a difference between these two things? The ghusl and the tatahur? Or are they one thing? We won't get into that right now. ثُمَّ الدَّهَنَ أَوْ مَسَّ مِنْ طِيبٍ, and then they put on duhan, oil, cream. This obviously is not included with a woman. unless the perfume that she's wearing is sinless. Is what? Sinless. Or the lotion that she's wearing is sinless. And then obviously there are different issues or different details that pertain to a woman putting on lotion or body spray, body wash, soap, and things like this. We've explained them in Q&A sessions with regards to, does a woman have to stink, or she's not allowed to spray perfume, but it doesn't mean that she has to smell bad. Maybe, maybe not. The concept of putting on lotion in which the lotion is going to wear off by the time you go outside and go to the masjid. The concept of a smell which cannot be encountered from a distance. There's detail with regards to these things. But the general rule, without any detail, the general rule is that a woman is not to perfume herself when she's leaving the home. She's not to perfume herself when she's leaving the home. Moving forward, he then says, ثُمَّ رَاحَ فَلَمْ يُفَرِّقْ بَيْنِ اثْنَيْنِ. Then Raha, he goes and he travels to Jumu'ah. Imam Malik rahimahullah, as we explained before, his view is that the Jumu'ah ghusl should not be done in the morning. It should be done when a person wishes to go to Jumu'ah. And you see in this hadith how they're what? Connected. He makes a ghusl, he cleans himself, he puts on the oil or the lotion or the smell, ثُمَّ رَاحَ. Then he goes out and he travels towards Jumu'ah. And he doesn't split two people up. This goes to show us that certain virtues have stipulations. In order for you to get this reward, in order for you to get these hasanat, you have to do it the right way. And you have to apply the stipulations and the conditions. And if not, then you won't get it. So you can make ghusl, you can wash yourself, clean yourself, perfume yourself. You can go travel to the masjid, but then you kick someone, or you move someone out the way, or you annoy or you bother someone, you may not get anything. And this can also apply to walking to Jumu'ah. Many brothers, they annoy people with their shoes. There's a shoe rack. Yet and still people, they throw their shoes all over the place. There's a shoe rack. People step on other people's shoes. There's a shoe rack. People, they come in with wet shoes and snowing and raining, and they walk on the carpet and everyone's socks get wet. There are many means of annoyance that brothers, they do on Jumu'ah. And obviously most people, they have a good intention. But many people are just ignorant. They just don't know. Or they know, but they need to be reminded of the basic etiquette of Jumu'ah. And one of the most important of those basic principles is to avoid annoying your brother. No matter how many rak'at you make or what you wear or the miswak, don't annoy your Muslim brother. It's a very important principle. And if the Muslims will implement this principle, no doubt the masjids will be so much more pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and much better. And there are many manifestations of annoying people in the masjid. And we don't care. This is the rule, we're just going to do it, even though it annoys most of the people. So we have to be mindful of this. We have to be mindful of this. He then says, فَصَلَّ مَا كُتِبَ لَهُ. That's a long discussion with regards to, are there recommended prayers to be made before Jumu'ah? Are there recommended prayers to be made before Jumu'ah? General prayers, or is there an actual sunnah of Jumu'ah? We know that the authentic sunnah clearly proves there's a sunnah for after Jumu'ah, 2 to 4 rak'ah after Jumu'ah. But is there a specific prayer to be made before Jumu'ah? ثم إذا خرج الإمام أنصت. And then when the Imam comes out, this proves that the Imam, the asl, is that the Imam should not come that early to Jumu'ah. This proves that the default ruling is that the Imam is not supposed to do what? Come that early and sit there like the rest of the people. Some of the ulama even explain, that the khatib, the Imam, is exempt from making the 2 rak'ah of sitting down on Jummah. You ever notice that? No. You come in 10 and you do what? You sit down. You don't make no rak'ah. You sit right down. Even though the hadith says don't pray unless you do what? Pray 2. So the hadith is authentic. Do not sit down unless you make 2 rak'ah. But the dilala, using of the hadith, the extraction of the hadith may not be what? Authentic. And there's a difference between the two. You can have an authentic text, but it doesn't mean you're using it properly. And this is a sin of many people in the modern world of 2018, especially when it comes to talking about people, boycotting people, things like this. They have a dalil. Fulan, the hadith says this, and he boycotts that. But it doesn't mean that you're implementing it the correct way. Let alone if you don't have a hadith, or you have something weak, or you have a statement of a companion or this person or something that's not even hardcore dalil. Everyone understand this? But misusage of the proofs and evidences, unfortunately, is something which has plagued the Muslims for many years and it plagued the non-Muslims as well. Okay, there are wars that have been started based off of people misusing proofs and evidences. These people, they did do this, or this person did fall. But does that mean you can what? Make mass murder now and kill and genocide? Doesn't mean that. So you have to have both things if you want to do something properly. You have to have the proof, which is hardcore, and you must have the proper usage of that dalil. If you're missing one of the two, you fall into error. Everyone understand this? So therefore, the imam comes out and he doesn't make it to raka'ah. غُفِرَ لَهُ, and then he will be forgiven. As we've explained many times before, what's meant by this is a person being forgiven of their minor sins and not necessarily of their major sins. In wudu, Ramadan, Jumu'ah, 5 daily prayers, etc., most of the ulama say that these texts pertain to as-sagha'ir, the minor sins, and not the kaba'ir, major sins. Whereas major sins need tawbah. They need tawbah. And some of the ulama say if they don't necessarily need tawbah, then they need a major expiation, such as a major calamity happening to you. Or a really, really big, virtuous, good deed that you do for the sake of a needy person. In a great time of need that shows a great deal of sincerity. A great deal of sincerity and care and compassion and sympathy. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa baraka ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabina wa imamina Muhammad.